Hello and welcome to step 7. This has a few parts, but they're big parts. It's going to be kind of interesting, but let's get to it and get this done. So with this one, you have N30 and N1, nice big ones, and then you just have flat. That's all they describe it as, is flat, but this is the main deck of the trailer. So we're finally to that point. Make sure that you've got these oriented correctly. Don't flip them around. You'll notice this is not that. You can't have these ribs on the inside and the extended length and the 2 notches, like on this end down here, unless it's like this. So anyways, that's what we're setting up, except I got to turn this the correct way. And what this is also going to do is you'll see these notches matching up with the notches in the side of flat, like so. Now I'm just pushing this in. This fits really nice as is, so it's almost like you don't need glue. Put glue on. You do need glue. It just looks like you don't need glue. So what I'm doing, because it's hard to tell exactly what surface is going to be mating with what and how that's all working out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run glue just down this here to make sure that I get everything, get something on the inside in case it's so tight with the capillary action that it's not fitting in there. Then I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to make sure this is pretty close before I snap that in. And adjust before I get this too loaded in. So there is a catch right here, so you can just basically push it all the way this way and it should fit. Now I've got it glued down basically on the inside here, and this takes all the space that I nominally have for doing this, but what I'm doing there is just running a bead of glue down this seam right here, of which there's very little surface area anyway, but that'll suck that in through capillary action right in there, and that's going to basically hit what we want. And then I'm putting some right in on this end right here, and I'm going to go back and put some in the backside. This will get all that loaded up, loaded in, done, finished up, and good. Now that's ready to go. Now what I did was I did check this, but you want to go and check and make sure. I checked this one, I didn't do this one yet. You want to check and make sure that all these knockout marks are good. Just go through and sand them down real quick. Probably doesn't hurt to sand everything, give it a little bit of tooth anyways, but I was in a hurry, I admit that. I want to give you guys a video every night if I can, you know, keep it going here. So now I've got this oriented correctly. Do the same thing, and I'm concentrating on putting that glue on the back half rather than the front half. Right in there. Just make sure everything is nice and tight and lined up so it looks good and it feels good. Now there's going to be some ridges in here. It's not going to fall in there perfectly, nor should it, but the whole idea is that this thing is going to be glued. Now I'm flipping this 180 degrees around so I can get this lip right here And if you feel like you aren't getting enough glue in there, if you're worried about it, you could also do inside the little pockets. That'll give you a little bit of access as well. So down in here, if you're concerned about it, just did the bottom port right there, do the top. Like I said, you can just go in there and do a pocket. But anyways, that gets this part all started and happy and going. So that's that and that's that. Now M32 goes here on the end. But it goes with the little brackets or knobs facing out, not in. Important. And that does have a positive fit. Now I've got a little bit of glue left over and I smooshed it over there, so be careful when you're moving large amounts of glue. You don't do what I just did. I'm going to put some glue across here. Again, this is to get it started, to get it tacky, like so. And then positive fit right there. Get that on. I'm giving it some pressure. Make sure that's nice and square. And this thing is so big I can't really show you, but nice and square. And if you have any hint of it pulling up or out or separating, or you really want to have this tight, you can get some clamps and put them on there, or tape. But I'm pushing this backwards into this so that it solidifies up against that as well, and gives a little bit of a lip on this edge. I don't know if that should be there, but it feels right because this piece right here now is even up. And the same with these right here. So I'm just kind of maneuvering this back so that it's in here. Put some glue on this junction. So all of this will glue together and be nice and tight, which is what we want. Like one big plastic piece. This is going to be our strength. Now that said, and this put together, you have M5 and M6 over here. Notice the orientation of the little triangle pieces. In other words, it's flipped over. So it's like this. This is the end where we just put M32. This is the opposite end over here. We're taking this piece here. It's not going to be, you're not going to be able to put this piece over on that side, but just so you know, again, glue, put it on, and this kind of snaps in. It's nice and tight. So, like so. Make sure it looks good from the sides. It's sandwiched on there, but it looks good. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of glue right at this inside part here, just to make sure it gets some. Like I said, I'm putting glue on here already to prep it, but even though I'm getting good glue effects already, so to speak, put that together, sandwich it together here. I want to make sure that that glue hasn't dried out, or that there's sufficient glue in there, because I really want all of this to just be rock solid. I don't want to come back tomorrow or do some work later on and find out, oh, the glue never really welded the parts together, and now I've got, a bow, or again, a separation, whatever. Don't want any more headaches. Just make sure it's better that way. So now that we've got that, looking at the orientation of this, we flip this back over. These parts are on here, and they show right there that they're in place. You can see the holes underneath. Then you take this part right here And this goes on, this is N19. Got to pay attention to how this goes. This goes, looks like right there. And when that's on and the other one's on, then you put this on and this becomes the cross brace between them. So just to give you an idea of what they're doing. Now, I'm not going to promise that everything's going to work straight off the top, off the first shot here, but let's give her a go. So some glue is on there. Square that up and just give it a second or two to let the glue get tacky. And I'm just going to, in general, see that it's square on the end. I'm not too worried about it yet. It's going to take, you know, a while for it to set, so it's going to be plenty of time to adjust it. Put some glue on that. That's even quicker. Now with this piece, I want to make sure that it's straight and not bending in either direction because I want this to fit on there pretty easily. Okay, there's that. I want to orient it correctly, which is the tail lights are up. And what they're going to be doing is this is going to, these flat pieces right here and here, make sure you can see them here and here, are going to be sitting on the piece, the parts on N3 and N19, and then this flat edge here will go up against this here, so we'll have plenty of places to add glue. So I'm not going to glue anything just yet. I'm going to check and make sure it looks like there's a little bit of flash on this end, and this one you want everything just square. So square that up real quick, square that up, then you don't put any side pressure on it. Put this on, like I said, without glue. This shows us where it should go. Now with that in place, I'm just going to put glue on the sides, like so. Now, I'm going to take a look at this here and go, okay, I want this tucked up right in here, like so. Yep, and that kind of wiggled off. That's all right. So where am I getting my points? Well, it looks like there's a bit of flash or something right in there. And I'd rather do my troubleshooting right now. This should tuck right underneath. And there might be problems that, you know, like I said, this little bit of flash, I didn't see that before. And I thought I looked over this whole thing over really well before I started this video. But there's that. Now I'm going to put this on. This is going to be my start. I'm expecting that I'm going to have to put more glue on later, but this gets things going. Right there. So, and there should be a little gap underneath. This shouldn't get rammed up in there. Now I'm having a problem here because I didn't get any glue. Thought I did, I didn't. And with this, there's, you know, and there's a little curve in here, but it goes square back in there. You got to make sure the glue gets in the back. Usually I can tell when I squish this together, a little glue and plastic kind of pop up. Then I know I'm getting a good contact. And just keep working at it and let it come together. Making sure to double check everything. Making sure you're not getting glue on stuff. Now, this is pulling away a little bit here still. I'm not going to worry about it too much right this second. But I'm going to keep an eye on it because eventually when the glue gets a lot less liquid and it's more just gooey, I can put some tape without making lots of horrible little run parts. So I can get this squared up on here without screwing it up. But while I'm waiting on that, the next thing that we have to do, we're putting this axle in. And this is the part that's the weirdest. It's this little slot right, you get this angled part right here, and then this little slot. Axle. Go figure. And to boot, it fits in there, kind of gets rammed in there between the two sides, so it shouldn't fall out. So I'm kind of angling it and pushing it in as best I can. There. I kind of angled it and twisted it in. I mean, once it's in, it's in. There we go. And that reminds me, there are a couple of things. So on flat, I looked and there weren't any little attachment points, but that's because I missed the, I'm going to call it a nipple attachment. But you want to be careful because they've got this nice weld detail on either side. So I am taking my sanding stick for right now and working that down carefully. Now I also have this flat bladed X-Acto. This works good. I like using these because I can control it and I can still scrape. But it's not as freewheeling as a file. You can use finer files, you can use sandpaper, you know, whatever works for you. I like this. So now that that's done, my old trick, real quick, is just put a little bit of glue over that to kind of meld that all in because it's a little rough. And that's just so that you don't paint it up and you get this rough patch in there and people are like, well, what's that all about? Well, I don't have to make up a story because I just took care of it. Let that dry down real quick so you don't get it sticking on the paper. It's getting there just enough. Oh, a little too much. Now, as you might imagine, these trailers get a lot of use, and doing transportation myself, moving heavy equipment around and such, these trailers do not stay pristine beyond probably the very first load that you put on them. They're already scratches. I've been surprised. And I kind of know what I'm getting into. Now that's wet, but I want to show you what we're going to do next, so I'll be holding this right like this. So we've got this set up like this. We're keeping an eye on this. This does pull away a little bit, but we've got an ace up our sleeves, so to speak. And that now we're putting the setup we made in step 6 right onto this bad boy here. But after we put the well or the axle in, and I put my finger right into that, so you can see the problem where one screw up can start to compound into others. This will be okay, but just be aware this is part of the problem. But anyways, we're going to be putting this piece as well onto this whole deal. This I will want to clamp. I mean, aside from sticking my finger in the stupid glue, we'll want to clamp it. So what I want to do is get down there and leave just a little bit of room. I don't want it fully touching. Put that in there for the glue so that the capillary action starts to take it. I'm going to go to this side and do the same thing carefully. Just run that down the side now. Some of the glue seeped out of there. So I mean, you're seeing this stuff goes everywhere, and you don't want fingerprints. So get to it right away. Soften it. It's already soft. Soften it up. Get it in there. Remove that before it does anything dumb. This is saving a screw, coming back and saving from a screw up. Now that's done, the problem is my only space for clamping is now covered in glue. So I gotta wait for that to dry on this end. But because I've gotten some glue started, and I hope that this is warning you, be careful where you put your fingers. Be careful how you deal with your glue leads to me having to do this. This is just apparently the fingerprints are a little bit in there. There we go. So now that that's done, I'm gonna put this, but I'm gonna let the capillary action work its way in. Just tuck that to the side a bit and then tuck it back in. Just carefully push this together on this end. And I still caught that corner. I mean, it's frustrating. You're not alone, people. You are not alone. I'm just waiting for this to dry up enough to put a clamp on it. I'm going to work towards the back because that doesn't have any glue all over it. So, right in here on this side. And you want to glue it because it's also going over the part we put on earlier. This is all going together. It's going to be, this thing when it's done, if we do this right, is going to be rock solid. It's not even going to be a question. Now, if I'd have done it right, this is already dry. All it took was me being a little bit too anxious. So I've loaded that side, just crack it just a tiny touch so that the glue can kind of slip in. And then just fill this in like so. So grabbing my very, very high clamps, my plastic clamps from, in this case, I think Menards. Putting my fingers, this is the extreme I can go forward, right there to set my other end. Where'd my other clamps go? Hold on. Yep, there they are. I've got to go grab my other clamps. Give me a second. I put them in my other spot. So, what I should be doing is instead of using this one, I should be using my large one with the wide face to sit on here gently. Don't want to overstress it and warp anything. Why I'm saying that is because these clamp from the side, they're deep, and that's nice. However, I don't want to clamp on the glue. So that's that. So now we're clamped all the way, and what I need to do is get this clamped on this end. Right here. So for that, I'm going to use a long one to that edge right there. I'll have to keep an eye and make sure it's dried some, but I want to make sure that's okay. So I've got this all set up. Now because of the glue issue on this side, now I can deal with this piece right here and right there and right across. So all, this tail piece should be glued in and on the top deck, so that everything gets to be one big solid piece. Now, here's the important part. Flip this over, take a look. Does it look like it needs help there? I don't know if something is going to go in here. It kind of feels like there is. I'm not going to worry as much about it right now, but there is this little bit of a seam. It pushes out a little bit there, but as far as the rest of it goes, it's rock solid. So I'm happy with this. That's not marring it. So this is how I've got it clamped. Right here, right there, and one big one right there. And that's leaving me to have a nice solid seam all along between flat and what we created in step number 6. So now I'm gonna set this down, and it's elevated now, so I'm not worried about it, and I'm gonna let this dry. And I'd say let it dry at least overnight, so roughly 8 to 12 hours before you start messing with it. And that concludes step 7. See you for the next one.